Well, once upon a time, not so long ago, there was, between the mountains and the sea, a rancho. And there was a ranchero who had many head of cattle and had much money which he kept to himself. His name was Senor Avaro. He had much money, and even though he was the wealthiest man in all that region and poorly paid the people who worked for him, he was always trying to find a way to make or take more for himself. Now, in that rancho, because of his avarice, the people had a saying. To any poor pilgrim that came traveling down from the mountains towards the seaport cities to find their fortune there along the coast, they would say, my friends, here in this place you will find that it is easier to drink from a tiny thimble than to drink from a giant cauldron. What they meant by that was that if you needed shelter, if you needed charity, you were more likely to find help in the door of a poor man who had little to offer but would offer it kindly than you were to get even a centavo from Senor Alvaro. Now, there was in this place a couple who had the kindest and most generous hearts of all. Manuel and Maria lived on a small, sere patch of land. They lived independent and did not have to work any longer for the ranchero Avaro. For they had gained for themselves a cow, a dairy cow to give them milk and cheese and cream and goods to trade in the village for what they needed. And with this cow and with their industry, they were able to eke out a living for themselves and own their land and own their home and own their lives. And any poor traveler that would come passing by seeking help and charity at their door would be warmly welcomed in, given a bit of bread broken for them to share with them, given a dry place by the hearth to sleep for the night, and sent on their way with good wishes for good fortune in their journeys wherever they wandered. And so they lived well, and they lived in love, and in time the love of Manuel and Maria bore fruit. And little Rosa was born to them. But a strange thing happened. On the very day that Rosa was born, the earth began to tremble and shake. It's been known to do that in this part of the world from time to time. And when the earth shook and the ground cracked, a hole opened up on the land of Manuel and Maria and Rosa. And out of that hole in that land, there came forth a cool, clear spring of fresh running water. Fresh running water to bathe the newborn babe, to grow now a green garden, and to share with their neighbors. For they gave freely this fresh water to all of their friends and neighbors and anyone in need. They gave it freely, but Senor Alvaro saw what had happened on that land. He saw that fresh water running. He saw that couple sharing, and he thought, those fools, they do not know what they have. They have a source of running water on their land, here in this desert place. They do not know how valuable that water could be, how much they could make from that water. Why, I would not give it away for free if it were mine. I would make people pay. I would make people pay dearly for the water that I possessed if it were mine, if it were mine, if it were mine. But it was not his. It belonged to Manuel, Maria, and Rosa. But that did not stop Senor Alvaro trying to think of a way to take that land, to ruin that family, to be rid of them so that he might move in and take possession of that now newly valuable land. And one day, when he knew Manuel would see him coming, Senor Alvaro had a trick. He came walking by, counting out great handfuls of money as he walked, loudly, and stuffing it into his pockets as he came. And indeed, Manuel saw him coming from some distance. Oh, hey, Senor Alvaro, con mucho dinero, ¿qué pasa, huh? Hola, senor, ¿qué tal? Ah, Manuel, how are you today? Not as good as you. I see you've had some good fortune. What, this? I tell you, this is just what comes from doing good business, as I do always. I tell you, it's like this, you see. Some time ago, I was missing one of my many head of cattle. Well, now, I cannot stand to lose even the slightest possession I have. So I searched throughout my land. You know, I have a lot of land. I had a long search, looking for the lost cattle, and I found that steer had stumbled over the edge of a steep arroyo and fallen into the base of the canyon and broken its neck, and it had died. But my friend, one of the first rules of business is waste not, want not. I decided right then and there I would take as much value as I could from that steer. So, I skinned it, I tanned its hide, and I thought, now what can I do with just one hide? Well, I can make something, perhaps. I could make huaraches. I could make sandals, all shapes and sizes. I could use every stitch, every piece, every scrap of this hide, and I could make as many sandals, all different sizes. And then I could perhaps go and sell them in the seaport village. Now, you've never been down to the seaport village, have you? Well, let me tell you, my friend, I will educate you, you know. The people son ricos, they are so rich. Down there at the seaport village, I mean, that's where all the ships come in from all around the world, and they are fools for fashion, the way rich people are, you know. They will spend great sums of money to have whatever is the most fashionable, most popular thing of the day. And I tell you right now, my friend, down in the seaport village, huaraches are very popular. Como oro. Huaraches are as good as gold. I took that one steer's hide of huaraches, I took them there to the seaport village. I sold them there for all of this money you see me counting out down here today. I am a shrewd and a good businessman. I tell you, my friend, if you want to be rich like me, take my advice. Take your cow. Not as big as my steer, but there still is a good hide there. Now, a cow will not live forever, so take this chance. Kill that cow. Tan its hide. Make as many huaraches as you can. Take them to the seaport city there and sell them. And you too could be a rich man like me. And think of all the things you could do with that money. Oh, I see you have a little new child there, huh? I bet you would like to have some money for her to take care of her, huh? What about her future? Think about that. But why am I talking to you? You are a poor man. And everybody knows that poor people are poor because they're lazy. Adios. Vaya con Dios, Señor. Manuel, watch that rich man walk away, his pockets bulging with money. He felt the sting of that insult. He knew how hard he worked and how little he had to show for it, and he thought it is not fair that this man should prosper so while we are poor. And he thought of his story. He thought of the seaport city. He thought, so many people are traveling from the mountains down to the sea in order to make their fortune there. He'd heard so many wonderful stories. He thought, could they be true? He thought of their cow. She could not live forever. She was their only means of living. But if she died, what happened then, huh? If he did not have something to replace her with. Then he thought of Rosa. He thought of all the wonderful things he would like to provide for her. How he'd like to give her a nice, fine new cottage. A nice soft bed, good clothes. And as he thought of these things, the trick wormed its way into his heart. And he decided to take the trick. On the dream of huaraches as good as gold, he saw his future, he saw his fortune. He thought it is fate that Senor Alvaro should come by with this story for me just now when I need it the most. And so, on the bad advice, he killed their cow, their only means of livelihood. No milk, no cream, no butter, no cheese now, only a cow's hide and the dream of huaraches as good as gold. So he worked and he sewed and he cut and he measured and he made as many sandals as he could from that one cow's hide. And then he bound them all together and threw them onto his back. And early in the morning, he headed off to the seaport city to make his fortune there. Now, the path from that rancho to the seaport was not easily walked on foot, wending its way as it did through the desert hills, along the edge of steep arroyo canyons. But so full of hope and dreams was he that he stepped quickly, easily, and lightly and made his way down to the seaport city and saw. What a sight! A great harbor filled with all manner of ships, their great sails billowing in the wind, the seabirds singing all about, and off in the distant horizon, the wide world opening up across the ocean. And then the broad avenues and the high buildings and all the people, the caballeros, the coaches, the señoras, oh my goodness, all these wonderful people, look at them all, so ricos. I will be a rich man too. I will sell them huaraches just as they want. And he set them down there beside the road and he offered them up for sale. Hey, knowing for sure he'd be a rich man by noon. Hey. But by noon he'd sold none. People were not interested in seeing his huaraches or having them for themselves. In fact, many of the people coming his way turned and avoided him and went wide around. He looked up and down the wide avenue and he saw many other poor peddlers like himself trying to sell their wares to the people of the seaport city. By the end of that day, he'd only managed to sell one small pair of huaraches for 2 bits. And when the sun sank on that day, something sank in that man as he realized what a fool he had been. He had been tricked out of his livelihood, tricked out of his life by Senor Avaro. He had killed their cow. No milk or cream or butter or cheese, now only a worthless pile of huaraches. Huaraches as good as gold, as good as dirt. He had ruined their family. And now Senor Avaro, with all his resources and all of his money, could come in and take over the land and buy it from them at this low price and take it and do with it as he wished. He would have to start all over again as he had done when he was a much younger man. It was a cold thought. He gathered his unsold sandals. He put them onto his back. And he turned into the darkening day to make his way with his sad news home. But he could not come back empty-handed, he thought of Rosa. He had wanted to bring her so many wonderful things. He had only a very little bit of money, which was not good for much. And he felt for his fellow peddlers. And so, he went to one of the men beside him and gave the money to him in exchange for a scarf, red as rose, hoping this might help to keep her warm in the cold days that await us now. And so sadly, he put his unsold sandals on his back. He turned back to the hills and made his way up in the darkening day, up the footpath to home. But the wind can whip chill and cold down from the high mountains, and it cut his thin clothes and cut him to the bone. It chilled him so that he felt like he could not go on unless he could get warm. And so he took out the gift that he bought for Rosa, and he used it for himself to warm his head, and that gave him some comfort. And still, though the wind whipped and chafed at his face and his chin, so he pulled his collar up too, and he bent down as best he could to huddle against the wind. He carried his burden on his back, and in this way, he fought his way against the wind, up to make his way home. When he heard some talking and laughing nearby. And then, not far off the path in the distance, he could see the glittering light of a campfire, and he could see the figures of many men standing around the fire. They looked like they were laughing and having a good time. They were drinking, they were eating, they were having a good time. But maybe these men will be kind to me the way I have been kind to so many other travelers coming to my door. Maybe they will give me warmth and a little bit of food so I can make it the rest of my way home. So he turned from his staff and he walked towards the fire and he called to those men, "Hey, hey!" bending down still all the while against the wind. "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" But he could not tell. Standing by the fire were bandits. Two-faced men who would offer a traveler a helping hand and then stab them in the back and take whatever thing of value they might have to offer. Yes, they were hard-hearted men used to a life of theft and murder, and they were standing around their fire, laughing about all the evil things they had done in their day. And they were counting out all their pirates' plunder, for there, in piles at their feet, were cash, coins, jewels, gems, glittering and gleaming by the airy light of the fire. They were hard-hearted men, and yet, it is said, even the hardest heart has a little spark of conscience at its core that knows when it has done wrong, and perhaps it was that spark inside their hearts that lit a fire within them as they looked up from their camp and they saw approaching them on the cold wind a weird figure. "Hey, you guys see something? I see something coming our way. You don't got a head on it. You got a bloody stump. Ain't that where a head's supposed to be? How can you walk around? You don't got... What are you talking about? That's a loco. You don't know what they were. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. He's got a big hump on his back, too. Big humpback headless thing. He's coming up. Hey, get out of here. I'm drinking too much. I don't even know what you're talking about, huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't like the sound that that's making either. I don't like it. As they saw coming towards their camp a terrifying figure, humpback and headless, a bloody stump where its head should be, one clawed arm waving wildly, and a low, terrifying moan coming on the wind. Well, it was Manuel. He had rose a scarf on his head and scholar about his face. He had his bundle on his back and he was calling out, "Hey! But to these bandits, this was nothing more than a wraith of retribution come out of the depths to bring judgment upon their heads for all the evil they had done in their day. They were not going to stay to hear what they had to say. They leapt from their camps, they ran into the night to escape this terrible beast. And the faster they ran, the faster ran Manuel to catch up with them. Hey! In their blind panic, those men had fallen over the edge of a steep bluff and fallen down into a sharp canyon, never to be seen again. And so Manuel, thinking of that fire untended, turned and went back to the camp to await their return. He made his way to the fire and got himself warm. And that is when he saw it. All that pirate splendor, cash and coins, jewels and gems, glittering and gleaming by the eerie light of that fire. And then Manuel began to think, you know, I might still do some business today. For after all the running those men did, I'm sure they're going to be wanting some new sandals for their feet. If ever they come back, they will find fine homemade Huaraches for them. I can see they left this money as payment for me. And so in fair exchange, he left his Huaraches there by the fire and he took in payment all that plunder. And so it happened, that which had been roughly taken from innocent hands came gently back into innocent hands. And early the next morning, Manuel came happily home, and he brought his fortune with him, and he laid it before his family, and he told them all the story of their good fortune. And as he was recounting his tale, who should come walking by but Senor Avaro? Certain now that his trick had worked, he fooled the man and ruined the family, and they would soon be gone. And Manuel saw him coming. Hey, Senor, come here, I want to talk to you. Senor, you lied to me. You led me to believe that in the city, Huaraches were as good as gold. It's not true. They're not as good as gold. They're better. Look at all the money I made selling my one cow's hide, huh? Look at all that. Oh, thank you. Muchísimas gracias, Senor. Thank you so much. Senor Avaro, all the money Manuel had brought back with him. Well, it was a lie. I made up. I told him to be rid of him, to ruin him, and yet he went to the city and he sold sandals and came back a richer man than I. Could it be that the people of the city are willing to spend so much for Huaraches? Could it be? Could it be? It could be. And then it began to think, if this one man with one poor cow, with those few simple sandals can go and make so much money, think how much more money I could make with all my cattle. And so the trick turned on the trickster. And dreaming of Huaraches as good as gold, Senor Avaro slaughtered all his cattle, tanned the hide, and had all the hide cut up into sandals, into Huaraches, and he put them all in great carts, and he carted them off to the seaport city to make his even greater fortune there. No one ever saw him again. What became of him I do not know, but I suspect that justice was done in its way. Forever after that, any poor traveler making their way to the seaport for their fortune and needing shelter and charity could come to the fine cottage of Manuel and Maria. They'd be warmly welcomed in, given a hearty home-cooked meal, a nice soft feather bed to sleep upon for the night. And on the next day they would be sent on their way with good wishes for good fortune, and to keep them straight upon their path, they would be wearing a new-made pair of Huaraches. Huaraches as good as gold.